Have you ever paid attention to the conversation happening in your mind, quietly all day long? That soft internal voice, it doesn't scream, it whispers, and yet it quietly builds the foundation of how we see the world and how we see ourselves. Most of us never stop to consider, what am I telling myself every day? Am I being encouraging or critical, clear or chaotic, grounded or reactive? The truth is, our minds are shaped not by what happens around us, but by what we repeatedly say within us. This isn't just modern psychology. The Stoics knew this over 2,000 years ago. Marcus Aurelius wrote to himself every day, not to impress others, but to realign with truth. Seneca believed that most of life's suffering came not from circumstances, but from our thoughts about those circumstances. And Epictetus reminded us that we cannot choose our external conditions, but we can always choose how we respond. This daily inner dialogue, what we might call self-talk, isn't fluff. It's spiritual training. It's mental discipline. It's the gym for the soul. Just like physical exercise strengthens our body, daily affirmations, when grounded in truth, strengthen our emotional resilience and inner clarity. I'm not talking about sugar-coated mantras. I mean real, honest reminders. Words that act like anchors when the day feels overwhelming. Simple phrases that remind us of who we are and who we want to become. Because when we face difficulty, when emotions rise, when life doesn't go to plan, it's those inner sentences that either keep us steady or make us spiral. So ask yourself, what would change if the first words you said to yourself each morning were words of strength, of courage, of peace? That's the power of daily self-talk. You don't need a microphone or an audience, just a moment of stillness and a sentence that speaks to your truth. In this video, I'm going to share 10 powerful Stoic-inspired affirmations. Not cliches, not wishful thinking, but daily thoughts that will help you realign, refocus, and reconnect with yourself, especially on the days you need it most. Let's begin this journey with one simple shift. Speak to yourself like someone worth listening to, because you are, and your mind is always listening. Daily truth number 1, I control how I respond. Let's begin with one of the most empowering truths you can carry with you through the day. I control how I respond. Now, it may sound simple, but in practice, it's one of the most profound disciplines you can master. We don't get to control everything that happens to us. People will say things that hurt. Plans will fall apart. Life, as you already know, can be unpredictable, messy, even unfair. But even in the middle of chaos, there's one thing that always belongs to us, our response. The Stoics reminded us of this again and again. Epictetus, born a slave and later revered as a great teacher, said, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." That wasn't just an idea. It was his way of surviving and thriving in a world where he had little control over his external circumstances. In today's world, we still face the same choice. Maybe not in ancient Rome, but in traffic, intense emails, in relationships. When someone criticizes you, ignores your effort, or says something unfair, you stand at a crossroads. Will you react emotionally or will you respond intentionally? That pause, that breath before the reply, is where your power lives. Let's take an example. Imagine someone insults you. They try to provoke you. Most of us feel the urge to defend, to lash out, to prove something. But what if you didn't? What if instead of giving away your emotional control, you reclaimed it? When you realize you don't have to take every invitation to argue, you begin to live with freedom. You begin to feel peace, not because others are kind, but because you are clear. That's the essence of emotional strength. It doesn't mean suppressing how you feel. It means allowing space between what you feel and how you choose to act. Seneca once said, "You have to persevere and fortify your pertinacity until the will to good becomes a disposition to good." In other words, don't just try to react well once, train it until it becomes who you are. So ask yourself honestly, who has the power in your life, your emotions or your values? Are you reacting to prove something or responding to protect your peace? Because every time you respond with calm instead of chaos, grace instead of rage, clarity instead of confusion, you're rewiring your mind. You're teaching yourself, I don't need to fight everything. I need to choose what's worth my energy. This is not weakness, it's wisdom. It's choosing long-term clarity over short-term satisfaction. It's being anchored when life tries to drag you into the storm. And over time, this mindset changes everything. You don't just become less reactive. You become more free, more rooted, more respected, not just by others, but by yourself. So today, carry this reminder. I control how I respond. Let it guide your next conversation, your next challenge, your next breath. Because your greatest strength is not in what happens to you, it's in how you meet it. So once you've anchored your response, what about everything else, the part you can't control? Daily truth number 2, what happens is outside my control. Let's face it, life doesn't always go as planned. You can show up early, do your best, double check everything, and still the meeting gets canceled. The deal falls through. Someone says something unfair. The weather changes. The flight gets delayed. The result doesn't match your effort. Sound familiar? Here's the truth we don't hear enough. What happens is outside my control. And learning to accept that doesn't make you passive, it makes you powerful. The Stoics knew that much of our suffering doesn't come from what happens, but from our need to control what's never been ours to command. Epictetus said it clearly, some things are up to us and some things are not. That distinction is everything. And yet, how often do we stress about things we can't influence? We replay conversations in our heads. We try to predict outcomes. We worry about how people perceive us or whether something will go our way. And when it doesn't, we spiral. We take it personally. We blame ourselves. Or we try harder to push, to force, to manipulate an outcome we were never meant to control in the first place. Let me ask you this. How much of your energy, your peace, has been drained by trying to control the uncontrollable? Because the truth is, life is unpredictable. People change. Plans fall apart. Even with the best intentions, things don't always unfold the way we hoped. But when you finally accept this truth, that what happens is outside your control, you start to breathe differently. You stop gripping so tightly. You start focusing on what is within your power, your choices, your mindset, your presence. That's where your real influence lives. Think about a rainstorm. You can't stop it from coming, but you can carry an umbrella. You can choose how you move through it. You can decide whether to curse the clouds or dance through the puddles. The same goes for life's storms. Instead of asking, why is this happening to me? Try asking, what's the wisest response I can give right now? Letting go of outcomes doesn't mean you don't care. It means you care deeply, but you no longer measure your peace by results. You measure it by alignment, by effort, by intention. Seneca once wrote, "He suffers more than necessary who suffers before it is necessary." That line is a gentle warning. We suffer twice when we cling to control, once in anticipation and again in disappointment. So today, try this simple shift. Focus on what you can control, your breath, your words, your focus, your effort, and let the rest unfold. You'll notice something beautiful happens when you do. You begin to feel lighter, calmer, clearer. You start to move through life, not with anxiety, but with grace, because you're no longer fighting reality. You're flowing with it. And over time, this shift becomes your freedom. So whenever life throws something unexpected your way, and it will, pause and repeat this truth. What happens is outside my control. Say it softly, say it firmly, say it until it brings peace. Because freedom doesn't come from controlling everything. It comes from no longer needing to. And in the middle of all that chaos, what if you simply came back to now? Daily truth number 3, this moment is enough. How often do we find ourselves racing toward the future or haunted by the past? We replay mistakes. We rehearse imaginary conversations. We worry about what's next. We plan, we rush, we grasp. And in doing so, we miss the only thing that is ever truly real, this moment. The Stoics had a word for this kind of stillness: presence. Marcus Aurelius, in the middle of running an empire and leading battles, reminded himself again and again, confine yourself to the present, because he knew that everything we seek, clarity, peace, purpose, can only be found here, not yesterday, not tomorrow. Now and yet, modern life pulls us in the opposite direction. We're conditioned to believe that this moment isn't enough, that we need more success, more status, more certainty, before we can truly relax or feel whole. But the Stoics challenge us to ask, what if nothing needs to change right now for you to feel at peace? Let that land for a second. What if you stop measuring your life by what's missing and started honoring what's here? Your breath, this chair, the quiet between thoughts, the warmth of sunlight through a window, the rhythm of your heartbeat. The mind often chases the extraordinary, but the soul finds nourishment in the simple. And when we anchor into the present, something shifts. Anxiety fades. Clarity returns. We begin to see again, not through the fog of fear or expectation, but with clean eyes and an open heart. Because the truth is, this moment is all you ever truly have. The past, it's already gone. The future, it hasn't arrived. But this breath, this thought, this beat of silence, this is real, and it's enough. Seneca wrote, "True happiness is to enjoy the present without anxious dependence upon the future." That's not just poetic, it's deeply practical. Because when you root yourself in now, you stop borrowing suffering from the unknown. So how do we practice this? Try starting small. When you wake up, instead of reaching for your phone, take 3 deep breaths and simply say to yourself, this moment is enough. When you're stuck in traffic or waiting in line or feeling overwhelmed, pause. Feel your feet on the ground. Listen to the sounds around you. Notice that you're alive, breathing here, and remind yourself, this moment is enough. It doesn't mean you don't want to grow or improve. It simply means you stop postponing your peace. You stop tying your worth to the next milestone or outcome. Because peace isn't something you find at the end of a to-do list. It's something you allow by choosing to be here fully without resistance. So let me ask you, when was the last time you let this moment be enough? Not because everything was perfect, but because you decided to stop running, because you chose to come home to now. The Stoics didn't wait for ideal circumstances to find meaning. They found it in the midst of challenges, through presence, through attention, and you can too. So today, when your mind drifts to regrets or rushes toward plans, gently bring it back to your breath, back to your body, back to this sacred, fleeting, miraculous moment. Whisper it if you need to. This moment is enough. Say it until you feel it. Say it until you believe it. Because when you can meet this moment with gratitude and grace, you've already found what so many are still chasing. The hard things? They're not punishments, they're training. Daily truth number 4, hardship makes me better. No one enjoys pain while it's happening. No one welcomes struggle with open arms. But what if the moments you want to avoid the most are actually the ones shaping you the most? We all face difficulty, loss, disappointment, failure, even uncertainty that lingers without resolution. And in those moments, it's easy to ask, why me? Or, when will this end? But the Stoics offer us a radically different perspective. Seneca wrote, difficulties strengthen the mind as labor does the body. In other words, hardship is not punishment, it's practice. It's training for the soul. Think of it like this. The same way your muscles grow through resistance, your spirit grows through adversity. Not by avoiding it, but by moving through it with intention, awareness, and courage. When life gets hard, it's not the hardship itself that defines us. It's what we do with it. Do we break down or do we break open? Many people believe that suffering is a sign of failure, that if they were stronger, wiser, or better, they wouldn't struggle. But the Stoics saw struggle as the classroom of life. Every obstacle is a teacher. Every setback contains a seed of humility, of patience, of growth you didn't even know you needed. Let's pause here. Think back to a moment in your life that tested you. Maybe it was heartbreak, or losing a job, or simply waking up every day with a heavy mind and no clear direction. Now ask yourself, who did I become because of that experience? Maybe it softened your ego. Maybe it gave you empathy. Maybe it taught you to slow down, to value simplicity, or to set boundaries you once ignored. Hardship, when met with courage and reflection, doesn't leave you broken. It leaves you wiser. And that's why this simple sentence, hardship makes me better, is so powerful. It's not denial. It's not forced optimism. It's truth spoken from resilience. This mindset doesn't remove the pain, but it gives the pain a purpose. It reminds you that struggle isn't a detour from your path. It is the path, shaping your character, deepening your perspective, and helping you grow roots that don't shake when storms come. So the next time you feel overwhelmed or defeated, try whispering this to yourself. This is shaping me. This is growing me. Hardship makes me better. Repeat it until it doesn't feel like a burden, but a doorway, a quiet invitation to rise stronger, not just in spite of what you're facing, but because of it. Remember, you don't become unshakable by living an easy life. You become unshakable by meeting difficulty with open eyes, open heart, and a steady mind. And every time you do, you're not just surviving the moment. You're building something inside you that no one can take away. But as we grow, we must also face what stirs within us. Daily truth number 5. Emotions are not facts. Have you ever had a day where everything felt overwhelming, only to look back later and wonder, why did that hit me so hard? That's the tricky thing about emotions. They feel urgent, loud, absolute. But here's the truth that can quietly change your life. Emotions are not facts. They're messengers, not masters. Signals, not verdicts. The Stoics understood this well. They taught that while we can't always control what we feel, we can control how we interpret and respond to those feelings. Think about it. Just because you feel like a failure doesn't mean you are. Just because you feel unloved doesn't mean you are. And just because you feel angry doesn't mean someone wronged you. Our emotions are valid, but they are not always accurate. Seneca once wrote, "We suffer more in imagination than in reality." And so often our emotional reactions are built not on the present moment, but on old stories, assumptions, or fear. The key isn't to fight your emotions, but to observe them. Like clouds in the sky, let them pass. Watch them shift. Some are dark and heavy. Others are light and fleeting. But none of them define the sky itself. Here's a practice I return to often. When a strong emotion arises, pause and ask, is this a signal or is this a story? For example, let's say someone doesn't reply to your message. Your mind might start weaving a narrative. They're ignoring me. I must have upset them. I'm not important. But the emotion, maybe anxiety or rejection, isn't proof of that story. It's just a signal that something inside you wants reassurance, wants connection. And that's okay. This is where emotional maturity begins. Not in feeling less, but in believing less of what every emotion tells you. You can feel anger and still respond with grace. You can feel fear and still take action. You can feel sadness and still stay grounded in truth. The more you practice this, the more you realize you are the sky. Your emotions are the weather. So when the storm comes, don't panic. Stand still. Let it pass. And remind yourself, emotions are not facts. They're visitors, not permanent residents. With time, you'll learn to welcome them, listen to them, but not become them. Because your power lies not in avoiding emotion, but in not being ruled by it. And once you quiet the noise inside, it's easier to detach from the noise outside. Daily truth number 6, people's opinions are not truth. Let me ask you something honest. How often do you hold back because you're afraid of what someone might think? You hesitate to speak. You shrink your dreams. You second guess your instincts, not because you don't believe in yourself, but because you're haunted by the invisible weight of judgment. It's something we all wrestle with. But here's a quiet truth that frees the soul. People's opinions are not truth. What someone says about you isn't a reflection of who you are. It's a reflection of them, their fears, their biases, their projections, their mood that day. Marcus Aurelius, the Stoic emperor, put it simply, don't waste time worrying what others think. You were born to be free. And yet, we do it anyway, don't we? We measure our worth by applause. We question ourselves after criticism. We let one negative comment ruin an entire day. Or worse, define an identity. But here's the thing. Other people don't live inside your values. They don't see your private effort. They don't hear your late-night self-doubt or feel your early morning courage. So why give their opinion more weight than your own truth? It doesn't mean you ignore feedback or live in denial. It means you develop an inner compass, one grounded in who you are, not who others expect you to be. It means that instead of chasing approval, you return to alignment. Instead of performing, you show up with presence. And instead of shrinking, you root deeper into your core. True strength isn't loud. It's quiet conviction. It's the steady belief, I know who I am, even when others don't see it. Here's a gentle practice. When someone criticizes you or doubts you, pause and ask, is this about me or is this about them? And more importantly, do I want to carry this opinion into my heart? Most of the time, you'll realize you don't have to. You're allowed to release it. You're allowed to continue unfazed. You're allowed to be free because you are not put on this earth to please everyone. You were put here to live truthfully. And no one's opinion, no matter how loud, can silence the quiet knowing of your own path. So the next time doubt creeps in from outside voices, gently remind yourself, people's opinions are not truth. My worth is not up for debate. Stay rooted, stay steady, and keep walking your own way. Freedom often begins with asking, what's truly necessary? Daily truth number 7. I need less than I think. Take a quiet moment and look around. How much of what surrounds you, on your shelves, on your phone, in your mind, is truly essential? We live in a world that constantly whispers more stuff, more goals, more status, more opinions. And without noticing, we absorb those messages. We begin to believe that happiness is out there, just one more achievement or purchase away. But the Stoics saw things differently. They practiced a kind of minimalism, not just with their possessions, but with their desires. They believed that peace comes not from having everything, but from realizing how little we truly need. Let that sink in. What if you already have enough? Not because the world gave it to you, but because you stopped needing so much from it. Seneca wrote, "It is not the man who has too little, but the man who craves more, that is poor." Think about that. Craving isn't just about material things. It shows up in our thoughts too. We crave validation, control, certainty, recognition. We scroll endlessly. We compare constantly. We buy impulsively. Not always because we need, but because we were taught to want. Social media, advertising, and even well-meaning friends shape our expectations. But very few of those voices ask the most important question. Is this truly yours, or were you told to want it? Here's a gentle challenge. Next time you catch yourself chasing something, whether it's a new gadget, a promotion, or even an ideal version of yourself, pause and ask, do I really need this, or have I just been conditioned to believe I do? This question alone can shift your mindset, because clarity isn't found in having more. It's found in desiring less. When you strip away the noise, what remains? Usually it's enough. A quiet moment, a cup of tea, your breath, a walk in the sunlight. These aren't luxuries. They're the essence of being alive. And when you realize that fewer desires lead to deeper presence, you start to see life not as something to conquer, but something to experience. So let this be your reminder today. I need less than I think. Not because you're settling, but because you're waking up. You're remembering that enough is a mindset, not a number. And peace is found not in more, but in less, appreciated fully. Let's return to simplicity. Let's stop chasing the endless more. And let's make space for calm, for clarity, and for what truly matters. Life doesn't owe us, but that's not a burden, it's a gift. Daily truth number 8. I'm not entitled to anything. We often wake up expecting things to go our way, expecting our plans to unfold, our health to hold steady, the people we love to stay close, and life to reward our efforts. But what if we paused and asked ourselves, who said I'm owed any of this? The truth is, life owes us nothing. Not another morning, not success, not fairness. Everything we receive, the breath in our lungs, the people who care about us, the simple ability to move or speak or love is a gift, not a guarantee. This may sound harsh at first, but it's actually the key to deep and lasting gratitude. The Stoics were clear about this. They trained themselves daily to remember life is fragile, unpredictable, and brief. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself, you could leave life right now. Let that determine what you do, say, and think. Not to be morbid, but to be awake, to stop taking things for granted. Because entitlement breeds frustration. It says, I deserve this, or this shouldn't happen to me. But when life doesn't follow our script, and it rarely does, entitlement turns pain into resentment. Gratitude, on the other hand, does something powerful. It softens our expectations and sharpens our appreciation. It says nothing is promised, so everything is precious. Think about a time when you expected something to work out and it didn't. Now think of a time something beautiful happened unexpectedly. Which one changed you more? This mindset isn't about lowering your standards. It's about elevating your awareness. It's about realizing that joy increases when you stop assuming and start appreciating. You're not entitled to health, but you have it today. How will you honor it? You're not guaranteed peace, but you can create it within. How will you protect it? Even the people in your life, they don't have to be there, but they are. And every moment with them becomes richer when you remember it's not owed to you. So today, instead of asking, why isn't life giving me what I deserve? Ask, what can I give while I still have the chance? I'm not entitled to anything. And strangely, this thought doesn't make life emptier. It makes it more meaningful, more tender, more awake. Because when you stop expecting the world to hand you joy, you start creating it yourself, from the inside out. Let this mindset anchor you today, and let it bring you back to a place of humble strength and quiet gratitude. And with that clarity, each day becomes a choice, yours to make. Daily truth number 9. Today is my responsibility. There's a quiet moment right at the beginning of each day, before the phone starts buzzing, before the calendar kicks in, when the day is still untouched. And in that moment, you're holding something powerful, the freedom to choose. It's easy to forget that. We get swept into patterns, routines, demands, expectations, and suddenly it feels like life is just happening to us. But the Stoics reminded us, we are not victims of circumstance. We are the authors of response. You are not your circumstances. You are your decisions, Epictetus said. That means this day, today, is yours. Not in a grand, pressure-filled way, but in a deeply empowering one. No matter what happened yesterday, no matter what you're worried about tomorrow, today is your responsibility. That's not a burden. It's a gift. It means you don't have to wait for permission or perfect conditions or someone to come and fix your life. You can begin now with one choice, one word, one step. Ask yourself, what do I want to stand for today? What kind of energy do I want to bring into the room? What kind of presence do I want to leave behind? Maybe it's patience with your kids. Maybe it's finishing that task you've been avoiding. Maybe it's reaching out to someone you've been distant from. Whatever it is, own it. Not perfectly, not urgently, but deliberately. When we stop blaming, we start building. When we let go of excuses, we tap into quiet power. And when we take responsibility for the tone of our day, we reclaim our peace, regardless of the noise around us. You don't have to control the world. You just have to lead yourself through it with clarity and care. Because the truth is, no one else can do that for you. No one else will live this day for you. It's yours. So instead of asking, what will this day bring me? Ask, what will I bring to this day? Let that shift guide you. Let it center you. Today is your responsibility. And when you live like that, intentionally, consciously, you don't just get through the day. You grow through it. And above all, let's remember, we don't get forever, but we do get today. Daily truth number 10, I will die, so I must live. Let's pause for a moment and ask something many of us avoid. What if today were your last day? Would you be proud of how you showed up? Would the little things still feel so heavy? It's not meant to be morbid, it's meant to awaken. The Stoics had a name for this, memento mori. Remember that you will die, not to create fear, but to create focus, not to pull us into sadness, but to pull us into life. We often live like we have unlimited time. We say later, tomorrow, someday, but later isn't promised, and someday doesn't exist. All we truly have is now. Think about it. How many days have slipped by, not because they were bad, but because we didn't really show up for them? Death in that sense isn't the enemy, it's a teacher, a compass. It reminds us, this life isn't a rehearsal. It tells you to send that message, to forgive someone even if they don't ask for it, to stop waiting for the perfect time to start something that matters. Seneca wrote, "It is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste a lot of it." Let that sink in. This truth isn't meant to create pressure. It's meant to create presence. Because when you carry the awareness of your mortality, you stop numbing out. You start choosing how you spend your attention. You become more intentional with your energy, your words, your presence. Even small moments, like a quiet cup of coffee or a walk in the sunlight, begin to feel sacred. You stop chasing what doesn't matter. You stop clinging to what you can't control. You begin to live, not just exist. So instead of fearing death, let it sharpen your focus. Let it remind you that this breath, this hour, this day, it's all a gift. And when you know something is precious, you treat it differently. You slow down, you care more, you become braver. So here's the invitation. Don't wait to feel ready. Don't wait for clarity to fall from the sky. Live now, love now, choose now. You will die, and that's exactly why you must live. Let this be your reminder, not of fear, but of urgency, to live on purpose, to live with depth, to live like it matters, because it does. Conclusion, practice. These reminders daily. Let's come back to where we started. The voice inside your head. You see, the 10 phrases we just walked through, they aren't just motivational quotes to feel good for a moment. They're tools, mental disciplines, anchors you can return to anytime life feels unsteady. Because here's the truth most people overlook. Your mind is not fixed, it's trained. Every single day, with every repeated thought, you're shaping how you see the world and how you move through it. When you start to consciously speak these truths to yourself, you begin to build something powerful. Not just more positivity, but more clarity. Not just control, but inner steadiness. And not just resilience in crisis, but presence in the ordinary moments. Maybe it doesn't feel like a big shift at first. One quiet phrase in the morning, one reminder at lunch, one deep breath before reacting to someone's words. But that's how transformation really happens, in the quiet, unnoticed repetitions. It's not about waking up tomorrow and being a perfect Stoic. It's not about never losing your temper or always feeling calm. It's about slowly becoming more aware, more conscious of how you respond, more deliberate about what you hold on to and what you let go of, more grounded in your values and in your circumstances. And that kind of growth, it doesn't come from pressure, it comes from practice, daily, gently, honestly. Epictetus said it best. First say to yourself what you would be, and then do what you have to do. That's what these reminders are for. They aren't rules. They aren't ideals. They're practice. A way of choosing your path, one thought at a time. So if today was hard, start again tomorrow. If you forgot in the middle of stress, return to the next breath. If you only remember one sentence, let that sentence be enough. Because even one moment of clarity can change how you carry yourself for the next hour. Even one small pause can prevent a conflict. Even one line repeated daily can rewire a decade-old habit. And over time, the voice in your head, it becomes your ally. It becomes steadier, kinder, wiser. And when that happens, you don't just survive life, you live it more fully, with less fear, less noise, more presence, more truth. So keep practicing, not for perfection, but for peace, not for performance, but for alignment, not to impress the world, but to come home to yourself. Because the real journey isn't about becoming someone else. It's about remembering who you already are, underneath the stress, the doubt, the noise. And that journey begins with a single, repeated truth. So what will you tell yourself today? Let it be something true. Let it be something strong. And above all, let it be something you choose. If even one of these reminders spoke to something inside you, share it with someone who needs a little clarity too.